Kivan was making his usual rounds through Sector 7 of the Interstellar Trading Hub when he heard the scream. Not a human scream, something else. Something that made his chest tighten with a primal recognition of terror that transcended species. Before he could process what was happening, a small figure collided with his back. Delicate four-fingered hands gripped his jacket, and he felt trembling breath against his spine. Kivan spun carefully, one hand instinctively moving to protect whoever had sought his shelter. She was Jari, one of the crystalline-skinned species from the Andara system. Her translucent blue skin flickered with patterns of distress, bioluminescent signals that even Kivan, with his limited xenobiology training, recognized as pure fear. She couldn't have been more than their equivalent of 8 years old. "Please," she whispered in broken standard. "Hide me, they come." Kivan didn't hesitate. He shifted his stance, placing himself between the girl and the corridor she'd emerged from. His hand moved to his comm device, ready to call station security, but the girl, Gull, he heard her whisper her name, grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "No authorities, they are authorities." 3 figures rounded the corner, tall imposing Draxians in enforcement uniforms. Their reptilian faces showed no emotion. But Kivan had been stationed on frontier worlds long enough to recognize predators when he saw them. "Human," the lead officer hissed. "Step aside. The specimen is property of the Draxian Medical Collective. She escaped from a research facility." Kivan felt Gull's fingers dig deeper into his jacket. Research facility. The words tasted like ash in his mind. He'd heard rumors, whispers in cantina backrooms about what happened to species whose worlds hadn't yet achieved full Galactic Council representation. "She's a child," Kivan said evenly, not moving. "She is a test subject. Her species sold her legally under Galactic Compact Section 47, Subsection 9. You are interfering with legitimate scientific research." Kivan's jaw tightened. He knew Section 47. It was the loophole, the one that allowed unrepresented species to be traded, studied, experimented upon. The one that most humans pretended didn't exist because acknowledging it meant acknowledging that the galaxy they'd joined wasn't the enlightened utopia they'd hoped for. "What kind of research?" Kivan asked, though he already knew the answer would destroy something inside him. The Draxian's smile showed too many teeth. "Pain threshold studies. Regenerative capacity testing. The Jari crystalline structure makes them excellent subjects. They feel everything human, every single thing. And they heal so we can repeat the process." Behind him, Gull made a sound. A crystalline chime that broke in the middle like a bell cracking. Something ancient and fierce rose in Kivan's chest. His species, humanity, had its own dark history. They knew what it meant to be property, to be experimented on, to be considered less than sentient by those in power. Never again. That's what humans had promised themselves after their own blood-soaked history. Never again would they stand by while atrocities happened to those who couldn't defend themselves. "No," Kivan said simply. The Draxians moved forward. "You have no authority here, human. Your species has no stake. I'm making it our stake." Kivan tapped his comm device, but not to call security. He activated an emergency protocol that every human in the station would receive. Code Harriet. Named after Harriet Tubman, it was the signal that someone needed the underground. The unofficial network humans had created to smuggle victims of Section 47 to safety. Within seconds, his comm lit up with responses, dozens of them. Humans from every corner of the station, dropping whatever they were doing. The lead Draxian's eyes widened. "You're committing an act that will have diplomatic consequences." "Diplomatic consequences." Kivan laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want to talk to us about consequences? My species wrote the book on those. We know exactly what happens when good people do nothing." Footsteps echoed from multiple corridors. Humans emerged, engineers, traders, janitors, pilots. They formed a wall around Kivan and Gull, silent and unmovable. The Draxians found themselves surrounded by 30 humans who had dropped everything to answer the call. No weapons drawn, no threats made, just bodies forming an impassable barrier of flesh and stubborn human will. "You cannot protect every one of them," the Draxian officer snarled. "There are thousands in facilities across." "Then I guess we're going to be busy," Kivan interrupted. "Because here's what humans do when we see children being hurt. We burn the whole system down if we have to." The Draxians retreated, but their final words hung in the air. "The Council will hear of this." When they were gone, Kivin felt Gull's grip on his jacket loosen slightly. He turned carefully, kneeling down to her eye level. Her crystalline skin still flickered with fear patterns, but something else too. Hope, maybe. Or the beginning of it. Are you really going to protect them? She asked in her small voice. All of them? Kivin looked at the humans gathered around them. Different ages, different backgrounds, united by one principle that was beaten into humanity's DNA through centuries of hard-learned lessons. Yes, he said. Every single one we can find. Because that's what humans do. We're not perfect, and we've made terrible mistakes. But we learned something from our darkest days. Never again means never again for anyone. Gull's bioluminescent pattern shifted to something that looked almost like a smile. Kivin stood, keeping her sheltered behind him, and looked at his fellow humans. They nodded back, understanding the commitment they'd just made. Section 47 had survived this long because no species had been willing to challenge it directly, but then again, no species had humanity's particular brand of stubborn righteousness. The galaxy was about to learn what humans meant when they said, "Never again." And it started with one small girl who'd had the courage to run toward hope instead of away from it.